Good evening and welcome to another episode of Busy Talks. Guys, our today's episode is very important for us to understand how we can improvise on our health. It's said that startup founders can find funding more easily than finding a piece of sleep. That is a topic of ours for today. We as startup founders work so hard and we are so proud and enthusiastic about our startup product that sometimes we don't keep a track of our time, and what results is that we work late night, we just forget to sleep, and as a result it develops as a habit and we formulate a sleep deprivation, which is also called insomnia. So, for today's topic, we have invited our expert, Mr. Manohar, who has not only fought insomnia himself but has treated himself with in a natural manner. So, let me invite you, Mr. Manohar. Good evening.
Good evening, Rakesh.
How have you been, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
So, firstly, thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule and guiding the startup founders in busy community. So, let us start with a brief of introduction. For our audience, if you can tell us what you do and how you have, established a method of fighting insomnia.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Rakesh, for having me. Yeah, I'm Manohar and I'm from Hyderabad. So I'm working in the software industry since the last 15 and a half years. So actually back in 2019, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
wherein what used to happen was I used to basically like my family, my wife and my kid of course, my kid used to sleep very early, like 8:30ish kind of a thing, because she was just 5 at that time. My wife used to just lie down on the bed and sleep in like 10-15 minutes kind of a thing. But then I used to just keep waiting for me to sleep. So, and then like initially it used to take half an hour, 45 minutes. So what I did was, I felt like instead of spending time not sleeping, let me do something productive and read a book or do something. So what used to happen was this, like you rightly said in the introduction, Rakesh, which is like this creates starts creating a habit, right? So what used to happen was I used to read the book and then go to sleep. So what used to happen was my book inevitably, if it is incomplete, right? Again, my mind was then on the incomplete part, which is like let me finish it, and rather than not sleeping, and then I used to like just uh, wake up and then go read it or finish whatever it was there. Then what used to happen was this, exactly what you mentioned in the introduction part. This started becoming a habit. And what used to happen was, without reading a book, right, I used to never go to a sleep. So that is a kind of an addiction I started developing. And what I realized is, like, yeah, our body can sustain for some time, few days without sleep, but then the deprivation, sleep deprivation, which you talked about, those symptoms started showing up. And coincidentally, I was watching a TED talk, which is given by a speaker, and basically he was saying like, we the tech generation consciously cut down on sleep. I mean, in the uh, whole planet Earth, only human beings are the one who cut down on sleep or do completely change the sleep schedules, right? So I found I was on the wrong side, and I wanted to an easy
Mm-hmm.
fix. Okay, so as an easy fix, I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? So just like anyone, right? So I started googling and started seeing a lot of things, started seeing videos and all those things, and tried to fix those things. But the problem was, the more I tried and the more I did not get success, right? The more desperate I became to fix it. The more desperate I became, the harder it is to sleep. And that is when actually
Oh,
I was diagnosed on anxiety, and I was given anti-anxiety pills because I was not sleeping. But then, yeah, like you said, the natural method, which I actually found out is when I went to the doctor itself, like I started on the practice of meditation. And what happened was when did this part, which is like training my mind to meditate before going to sleep. So once I did this continuously, right? Every time I went to the doctor visit, my medication was always tapered down by half. Like, so if it was like zero point 0.2 mg, it was like zero point 0.12 mg, something like that. And after 3 months, like basically, I was told like not to have any kind of medication and just continue on the practice that I was doing. So that is how I was able to get out of this.
Interesting, interesting. So, Manoj, we'll of course discuss a detailed process of how you fought sleep deprivation, but let's, for the highlight of our community, let's discuss what are the negative effects of not sleeping on time, and how does it affect our health and our body and and our mind.
Uh, yeah, one thing I can very easily tell Rakesh is like since we belong to the internet generation, or basically we work on our computers most of the times, right? So we are basically knowledge workers. And basically, when it comes to
True.
knowledge workers, we can pretty much see like the speed at which things are changing is very fast. Right. So the challenge is I can talk about something called as how we learn information or how we grasp information. The simple thing is in our brain has two kinds of things. One is called as a short-term memory and one is called as a long-term memory. So short-term memory is anything that has happened in the recent past. So for example, I and you are talking. So all these things basically get registered in the short-term memory. And then
Right.
uh, but this is not really important. This actually has to go to the long term memory, right? So only when you have these things in the long term memory you will be able to recall things in a long run and able to process those things. So any skill that you learn, right? So if it's only in the short term memory, it will be there for short term, but then again you will start forgetting. So the process of consolidation of memory from whatever you have learned in the short term versus the long term, right? So that process of consolidation basically happens when you sleep well. Only when you sleep well, this memory consolidation happen. And especially when there are founders, like there will be like lot of things where you may have learned something or you have met someone or you understood, you have recalled something, but then you will not be able to recall because if you keep all the things in the short term memory and keep doing this sleep deprivation, right? Things will not get consolidated in the long term memory, and that will create a problem because some things are there to be there in the long term memory, right? So that's one of the easiest thing. And definitely, like you talked about the health effects and all, right? So yeah, there are so many studies after studies which prove that uh, in the old age people who are not able to do this cleaning up of the consolidation of the short term memory to the long term memory suffer with Alzheimer's disease, where basically Alzheimer's is nothing but uh, you forget things.
Memory loss.
So
Yeah.
that is how it happens. And of course you run the risk of the cardiovascular diseases because obviously when you are continuously working, right, your heart has to pump in lot of things, right? So there's a lot of pressure on the blood, and this will give the challenge of high blood pressure and those kinds of challenges also.
Okay, yeah, I remember that, after the age of 55, my mother just, like hereditary, she lost her sleep, and then slowly, she became diabetic. So, can you
Yeah.
say, that diabetes and stress is also related with less sleep?
Yeah, definitely diabetes. One of the primary reasons is sleep, because what happens is when you sleep well, obviously you will have proper uh, functioning of the body, right? So you will not
Right.
be able to either reach out to the sugary snack because our mind by default will start going to the sugary snack. And other thing is there is another thing called as leptin and ghrelin. So it's basically something like when you are eating your food, right? So if when you are full, right, so that signal the body gives, right? Only when you are sleeping well, that signal of having enough food, that signal is given by the body. If you don't have a good night's sleep, that signal is not given by the body, because basically when you sleep less, your body is basically in a fight or flight mode. When it's in a fight or flight mode, basically there is some danger, right? So when there is a danger, our bodies will start eating and consuming lots and lots of food, and that
Sure.
will become a problem because you'll not be able to digest it.
Oh, okay, okay, interesting. Okay, so Manoharji, let's begin with our program and unclose the factors how you literally teach the individuals to sleep properly. You called yourself
Yeah.
as a sleep coach, right? So we wanted to
Yes.
understand how do you help individuals realize, what are their habits and how they can overcome these habits.
Yeah, so Rakesh, like the first and foremost thing which I work with people is start prioritizing on sleep, because like you rightly said in the introduction also, we keep doing things over and over again, and then we completely procrastinate on sleep, and this is also called as sleep time procrastination, right? So once
Okay.
you start prioritizing sleep, so it means you are giving some importance to sleep. That is when you start changing your attitude towards sleep. So that is like you give the respect to sleep that it deserves. So I have actually used this phrase called as ABC, which is appreciate the time you spend to sleep. B stands for boundaries. So you set some boundaries to say like it's time to sleep. So it need not be like the same. If let's say for example I sleep at 10 p.m., so it need not be 10 p.m. for you, but you have to set your own boundaries based on whatever works for you. It could be 11 or it could be 11:30, whatever works for you. Setting the boundaries, and C is the constant sleeping time. So this is the ABC. When you have this ABC, which is appreciating the time you spend in sleep, having boundaries, and the constant sleeping time. So I help people create that starting ritual. So for example, uh, if you see in my case, like I have like for example 9 a.m. or 9 is when actually I start cutting down on whatever works that I do. Like of course, like we spend a lot of time on our mobiles, right? So that is when I consciously make an effort that I will not spend some time on mobile. Instead, I go change my night clothes, have a conversation with my parents or with my family members, or I do my silent meditations, and that is when actually I start prioritizing and start training my mind to say that it's time to sleep. So why this is really important is actually in the early 1900s, Russian scientist Pavlov conducted one experiment, and it's called as Pavlov conditioning experiment. So basically what he did was, he used to give food to the dogs. Before giving food to the dogs, he just rang a bell. Okay, so what happened was after a few days, just the ringing of the bell, and the dogs understood that they are going to get food. So this is how our brains also get conditioned. So once you give some ritual or some habit, some simple habits that will tell your brain that it's time to sleep, that is when you'll actually go to sleep much better. So that is the first thing which I work on, which is start prioritizing and start creating some simple rituals that will help you to sleep much better. And then the rest of the things is actually I call as switch, a simple acronym called switch, which is like S stands for start prioritizing sleep, W stands for work on your passion, I stands for in the present moment, T stands for thankfulness, C stands for celebration, and H stands for humor. So that is the if you have these six elements of switch, that is when you'll be able to sleep much better.
Okay, so this switch, can we get some example of this terminology, please?
Yeah. So, like I already talked about S, which is like start prioritizing and start creating your rituals. And W definitely is working on the passion. So, for example, like there are multiple studies after studies that prove that the thing which you enjoy, if you work on it, right, it doesn't feel like work. It's a passion for you. So
uh,
in fact, there's a very beautiful book also called as Ikigai, which talks about how you have to find your passion. So once you work on your identify and work on your passion. So yeah, so then there will be multiple people who will be saying like, yeah, that is correct, like working on passion, but still I have to make my ends meet. And basically all this my life challenges, my finances are taken care with my job or my
mm,
things. But then it need not be like you need to spend your whole day. It's like even it's even enough if you just spend 15 minutes of a time on working on your passion, the things that really give you joy. So for example, like I used to just spend 15 minutes of the night before going to sleep on writing my book. I did it rigorously for the 3 to 4 months, and that is when I was able to create a manuscript out of my book. So that is, before it was not even possible that I could even write a book. So that is like working on the passion. And I stands for in the present moment. So in fact, like there are multiple things. Yeah, this is in short called as mindfulness, where you just are there in the present moment instead of wandering in the past or in the future. You just stay in the present moment, right here, right now, and that is how you train your brain that there is no danger. Because once there is a
mm,
danger, right? So in terms of the deadlines or the pressures or what the challenges that you see, you end the day, right? That is when again your brain will go into a fight or flight mode, and it will try to think hypothetical scenarios here and there, what can be done to solve it, and those kinds of things. So that is where you have to bring into the present moment. And T stands for thankfulness, which is like you end the day with a feeling of gratitude for the smallest things that are there in your life. And C is celebration. So they often say like it's often said it's not the destination but also the journey you have to enjoy. So when you end the day with a feeling of accomplishment for the small progress that you have made, that is going in the design of the brain. So because our brains love pleasure, so it goes in the design of the brain. And H is humor. So yeah, science says that kids laugh for more than 200 times a day, whereas we as adults laugh for less than 20 times a day. And it's often said like laughter is the best medicine. So that is where we have to find ways to laugh and bring that kid in us to just laugh unconditionally. So that is, so these are the things which as part of Switch I do it.
okay. So now let's talk about this insomnia switch-off method that you have been talking about, and the program of yours. So, what does this program cover? Can you give us some, in-depth look at the specific techniques that are used in your programs, particularly that focus on natural methods and mindset shifts?
Yeah. So yeah, basically the program is about identifying the things that are giving you, for example, that feeling that I have to do more and more, more and more before I go to sleep. So I mean, that is when you start that boundary setting. And uh, one of the major things which in this part of this program is about identifying the limiting beliefs that you have, that people have. And see, many times we do have the limiting beliefs. It could be any limiting belief, but we are not willing to share it with others. But then once you start
Mm,
sharing and start seeing it in the third perspective, so it's not you, but you are just observing that limiting belief of yours, right? That is when the limiting belief start loses its grip. And that is when you like I said, in my case what was happening was I was living in that impression that I can't go to sleep tonight because I don't know, for some reason. So that is when I started just stepping back and started seeing with a third person view. So if something has happened, so why should I really be bothered? So for example, like simple case, like when there was someone who switched on a light for some reason, right? I used to immediately wake up before that. But now
mm,
it's not always. Sometimes I do wake up. It's not that I don't wake up at all. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't even wake up. So I don't have that limiting belief that saying that if there is a light, I have to wake up. So kind of a thing. So that is where you identify those limiting beliefs and start working on them by these simple practices of meditation and mindfulness. And there are other things like the other main thing which I talk about is the power of breathing, which is uh, to slowing down your breathing. But the inhales, if it is for 3 seconds, the exhale should be at least for 4 seconds. So when you maintain this ratio where you
Oh,
exhale longer, that is when your brain understands that there is no fight or flight, and it understands that it's time to relax and will be able to sleep much better. Yeah.
interesting. This is something new that I'm sure everyone must have learned. If you're breathing in for 3 seconds, you breathe out for 6 seconds. Oh, that's one is to two
I-
ratio.
yeah.
You're actually
Yes.
teaching how to
Yeah. To start off,
mechanically train
it
your
can
brain.
also be like yes. To start off, you can also do 3 to 4. But yeah, the ideally is like it should be as close to 6. So that is when the fight or flight
Hmm.
response, or when there is body is acting fast, right? You will be able to retrain your brain to just calm down and relax.
Right, right. So, my next question is that is it really individualistic approach, or does this apply to any person in the universe? Like while your program is targeting IT professionals, um, the startup founders can be from IT field, they can be from retail, or they can be from any field, you know. Does this
Yes.
approach benefit everyone?
Yeah. So, yeah, the core thing, Rakesh, like you initially talked about, insomnia is a habit that you have created where you have procrastinated on your sleep, kind of a thing. So I just work with the IT professionals because I have more familiar with the IT profession because I am working in that. But it does not really matter if you are some textile startup founder or someone else, where all you're really doing is you are retraining your mind to understand that you anything is possible by the concept of neuroplasticity, where our brains can be retrained. And that is the core thing. So it need not be applicable only for an IT founder, but it can be. But I just prefer to work because I speak the same lingo. That's the only thing.
Yeah, so for IT professionals, it's easier to relate to you, and you can speak the language basically.
Correct.
Got it, got
Yes.
it. So let's talk about some success stories. That you have really helped out to some people, and if you can give us an example.
Yeah.
Of course, not taking the names,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yes. Okay. So regarding the success story, Rakesh, like I'm my own success story that to start off. Regarding the other success story which I want to talk about, like I was working with a guy who was like I guess 19-20 kind of a thing, age 19-20 kind of age, and he basically quit his job because he was struggling with sleep, and he was just living on the pension of his grandmother, and all these tests and all were happening because of his grandmother was giving him her pension money. But then he
Hmm.
started working with me, identifying like those simple routines, like how he can just find ways to relax. Once he was able to find ways to relax, he just persisted with those practices again and again. And then he got a job. And then after getting a job, he just also had this issue, but then he persisted, and then he was able to get the best employer of the month in the month of November 2023. And that is how he's working to improve his income. The person who was struggling to sleep and living on pension money, now he's making sure that he's clearing the family debts of his family, and also making progress. So that is what happens when you are able to fix your sleep.
Interesting, interesting. Uh, so Manoj, you spoke about the switch method where W was working for your passion. Now, I'm sure what I'm going to talk about is going to be related to most of the startup founders. The startup founders, like me, so they are very, very passionate about what they are doing, whether they are building a product, whether they are building a service, or so it actually motivates us to not sleep. So we it's not like it's by choice we don't sleep. So we keep working,
Correct.
and everything that we do, we create a process, and it ends up like, 1 or 2 a.m. in the night, and then we are like, okay, why do we sleep now? So how do we
Hmm.
overcome that? Because it just takes away the entire energy, and our mind is
Mhm.
still involved into the work that we are doing. But we do understand that sleep is important, but how do we come out of that passion, the W?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I agree with you, Rakesh. Like when something is done with passion, obviously you will take some time to. Yeah, it the brain by design wants to do more and more of pleasurable things, right? And
Yes.
that's what happens. Yeah. So I feel the change that needs to happen, Rakesh, is yeah, I do understand when people really stretch their boundaries, but that's where you also have to understand that if you keep going on and on and on, right? So it's going to be difficult because the next day will not be that productive, and you will not be able to get uh, that energy to perform at your optimum level, right? So that is where you have to start understanding that there has to be some boundary, right? So that is where I talked about setting some boundaries for saying that it's time to end, right? And then creating some rituals which will actually calm down your mind. So for example, like you really talked about the 1 a.m. the 2 a.m. thing, right? So in that case, like actually, Rakesh, so it shouldn't be a case like now I'm going to start making the switch immediately to 10 p.m. It doesn't work that way. So you have to make that s- conscious effort of 15 minutes kind of a thing before you are going to bed to basically relax yourself. Create something where you take your mind away from the work, and it could be music, it could be just going for a walk, it could be just having a small drawing, or it could be anything like going for a shower. It could be any ways where you just take your mind away from that thing. And then yeah, obviously the other thing that helps is if you can journal or basically write down the top 2 or 3 things that you would like to see as a continuation to whatever work you have done, that will also help. So I feel like you have to understand that boundaries are really important, and
Hmm.
start
Hmm.
respecting those boundaries. So that is the main thing I would say.
Okay, so set your time for sleep, and this is the time that you have to stop working, and this is the
Yes,
time that you should go hit the bed and then wake up after 7 hours.
correct,
Right, right. That makes sense.
correct. Yes,
Okay. So now we clearly understand what your process and program entails for the startup founders. But could you give us some, 5 steps, 6 steps, or 7 steps process that we can just start implementing from tomorrow?
uh, yeah, the first and foremost I would say is start prioritizing sleep, and then create one ritual which will tell that it's time to sleep, right? So that is the first thing I would say.
Okay.
The second thing is start appreciating the time you spend in sleep. So it's not that, like you really said, why should I sleep instead I will finish my work, right? So you have to appreciate the downtime. Only when you appreciate the downtime, instead of saying like I don't need a downtime, or I need to you need to appreciate the downtime. uh, Only then will you be able to start making that scene, and make gradual shifts. So it shouldn't be very big shifts. It should be gradual, small shifts that you make, and
Hmm.
celebrate whatever things that they are doing. So if you have started prioritizing sleep, celebrate that thing. So celebrate the fact that you are able to do it. So the thing is, uh, like the small milestones that we take, right? The small steps that we take, that start becoming a habit, and once that habit starts creating, then you will see a lot of change, is what I would say.
Okay, so this message is very clear for startup founders. Keep an alarm that reminds you that you have to sleep, right? Starting with step one, and
Correct.
step two, do sleep. Prioritize your sleep. Okay,
Yes.
Manoharji, this is fun actually. We are learning a lot out of this webinar. My last question to you would be beyond your program. Could you recommend us some books or websites that we can refer that gives us some
Yeah.
technique to calm our minds and then, uh, lie down on the bed peacefully and sleep?
Yeah. When it comes to books, Rakesh, I have written my own book, and this is actually called as My Sleepless Nights. So this is available on Amazon. So this is
Wow.
me who's struggling to go to sleep. So
Okay.
it's available on Amazon. So My Sleepless Nights, and yeah, on the topic of meditation, I would recommend. A course on Udemy by Greg Deveris. It's called Meditation for Beginners by Greg Deveris. So that is something which I have personally followed and got a lot of benefit. And yeah, there are a lot of resources, but I would say the more important thing, Rakesh, is it's not that we don't have knowledge. Knowledge is available for free. It all matters in execution. So right, so find an accountability partner who will be behind you, asking you why, how you can, if you fall, like you can talk with them and then find an accountability partner. So that's not only applicable for sleep, that's applicable for anything in life. So having an accountability
Hmm.
uh, helps a lot. That's what I would say.
Right. No, in my case, there's my wife who keeps pulling me to bed. You need to sleep, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Manojit, this was fun, and we really would want to learn more from your program. So I have two recommendations. One is that please share the link of the book on the Amazon that you have authored and the
Yeah.
YouTube video that you mentioned, and also share us the link how one can subscribe to your course, your program
Sure.
to improvise their sleep. So we'll mention this in the comments of our LinkedIn as well as YouTube channel for this video, and let's hope people connect with you soon.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Great. So thank you so much for being with us this evening. It was really pleasure, and we would really invite you again with one of the other speakers to talk about the health importance of startup founders.
Yeah, thank you, Rakesh, and I had a great time talking to you and answering your questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, so that was Mr. Manohar Grandhi, the sleep coach and the author of the program Insomnia by Switch-Off Method. So, if you're really, really concerned about your sleep and you are facing sleepless nights, I hope that you would connect with him on LinkedIn and YouTube, and he would surely be able to help you. And perhaps if you're looking for a platform to share your stories, share your thoughts, or give insights about your activities and your startup business, then please do connect with me. My name is Rakesh Kumar. I'm the founder and director for Busy Talks. And see you. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Bye.